Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in the session where we will be looking at how we will be putting the European road transport on track for the future. And this is very important because, of course, we have set ourselves the very ambitious objective to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world. And, of course, we need to have our sustainable mobility system in order to get there. I'm very, very pleased to be here with you this afternoon to be the moderator of the session, and we have a very interesting lineup of panels for you, representing 3 different transport modes: the rail transport, the waterborne transport, and new mobility services. But before we go on, and I will introduce our very interesting panelists to you, I first would like to invite you to go on Slido. So please scan the QR code with your mobile device or go to the website slido.com and introduce the code that we have for this session, which is #RIDaysEU. Because I would like to invite you to answer a poll question for us before we start with the session. And the poll question is, what is, in your opinion, the most important challenge for achieving sustainable transport by 2030? And there you have an option to choose from 4 different options. So what do you think is the most important challenge? Is it having at least 30 million zero-emission cars on our European roads? Or is it having at least 100 climate-neutral cities? Or maybe you think the biggest challenge is the 3rd option, a doubling of high-speed rail traffic across Europe. Or maybe you think it's the last one, having zero-emission marine vessels market-ready by 2030. So these 4 possibilities, please pick one. And actually, all 4 of them are milestones that we have set in our smart and sustainable mobility strategy. So we would be very interested to hear from you what you think is the biggest challenge that we are facing in order to be ready for sustainable mobility by 2030. So while you continue to choose between these 4 different options, I will in the meantime give you a bit more information about this session. So in a while we will start with a video message from our Commissioner for Sustainable Transport. This is Commissioner Vălean. And then after we have heard from her, then we will move on and engage with our very, very interesting panelists, whom I can see can't wait to start the discussion. So I'm just allowing a few more seconds for you to participate in the poll. I think the numbers are still increasing there. And then we can slowly go to see the results of the poll. If we can see the results, please. And we will also, at the end of the session, we will also revisit this question. So we will basically look whether, after you've heard from our panelists, whether you will change your opinion. So at the end of the session, we will revisit the poll. It's now very clear that we have a winner, which is the climate-neutral cities with more than 50% of the vote. So thank you very much for participating. And as I said, we will see whether at the end of the session you will have changed your mind. Now let's move to the message of Commissioner Vălean, who will talk about the ambitions that we have at the European Union for sustainable transport and the role, of course, that research and innovation is playing in this sustainable mobility strategy for the European Union.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an exciting time to work in transport. Technological innovations are changing every transport mode. Autonomous vehicles, self-driving trains and shuttle buses, Hyperloop, electric passenger vehicles, just to name a few. It seems that we live in a world full of incredible new ideas. But as Edison once said, the value of an idea lies in the using of it. So, how can we reorganize our transport system and make it more efficient using innovation? In our new strategy for sustainable and smart mobility, adopted in December last year, we listed 82 concrete policy measures to drive a fundamental change to Europe's mobility as we know it today. But we won't get there without the research and innovation community. And I suspect that the research and innovation community would tell me that we won't get there without sustained investment either. Indeed, from hydrogen-powered buses and e-fuels for aviation to automated vehicles and e-shipping, the technological solutions need considerable investment if they are to become a reality. For the last 7 years, around 2.5 billion euros was allocated to over 400 transport and mobility projects under the Horizon 2020. This investment accelerated the identification of new solutions and turned them into prototypes. In synergy with other EU programs such as the Connecting Europe Facility, the Climate Change Innovation Fund, the European Regional Development Fund and InvestEU, these prototypes can scale and reach the market. Horizon Europe will continue this trend, earmarking 15 billion euros until 2027 for transport research and innovation. We have just launched 8 new public-private partnerships mobilized for transport innovation. I'm confident that they will channel our sustainable and digital ambitions into concrete concepts and services. Beyond the partnerships, we also need broader association between modes. We must move away from conventional, silo-minded approaches to transport and instead lay the ground for collaborations and the entrance of new actors. That's why in 2022 we plan to launch a new mobility tech group. This will be the first step towards a new coherent EU approach to testing and trials for emerging technologies and solutions. I hope the new partnerships and the new mobility tech group will make our commitment clear. Cooperation between public and private sectors, between transport modes, between research disciplines, between EU countries and with like-minded non-EU countries. This is how we will take sustainable and smart mobility to our streets, skies and seas. And actually I would like to finish with a promotion of one of the workshops this afternoon, that on the European Year of Rail. Fostering more innovation in rail is one of my priorities for this year and this mandate. Thank you, and I wish you a most inspiring debate.
So great to listen to Commissioner Vălean, who underlined the importance of investments in research and innovation, and also the importance to move away from a silo approach, to have more collaborations. And of course, the 8 new partnerships that we will be launching under Horizon Europe on the sustainable transport modes will play a key role. And of course, collaboration between these partnerships will be key. So let's now move to the welcoming of our panelists. I'm very, very pleased to have all of you here with us this afternoon. And I will start with you, Anna. Anna Masutti, the chairwoman of RFI, which is the Italian Railway Infrastructure Manager. Anna is also a professor at the Bologna University, and Anna plays a key role in Europe's Rail, which is the partnership under Horizon Europe dealing with sustainable rail. Anna, thank you so much for being here. And I'm also told, Anna, that you also in practice move around yourself sustainably, that you have actually given away your driver's license, and now you're only moving around in town using a train or a metro. So that's really, really great. Let me start with the first question for you, Anna, and I would like to know from you how your company and also Europe's Rail Partnership will accelerate the move towards more sustainable mobility, and also what you will be doing with your company and the partnership to contribute to the objectives of the smart and sustainable mobility strategy that Commissioner Vălean referred to. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm really delighted to be here today, and thank you for having invited me to participate to this important panel. As we know, experience shows us that the changes are more effective, and the new strategy activities are more effective if they are driven by clear, shared and achievable goals. And the strategy defined by the European Commission in its communication issued last December regarding the sustainable and smart mobility can be more developed or developed in a better way if we have at European level an harmonized and uniform legal framework in order to support member states to adopt the same solution. So a clear transitional path can speed the definition of action and its implementation. This in order, as you said, and as our commissioner said, to contribute to the climate neutrality. We do not have to forget that railway transport is ecological in its essence, and certainly it can contribute to improve it. Let me give you a few examples. If, as the European Commission, the European Union anticipated, we would like to double the high-speed services in Italy, we have to improve intermodality and also integration with territories, especially territories with less population, less urbanized. We know that studies, analysis at European level, but also the guidelines of the European Union on cost-benefit analysis establishes that for the evaluation of investment should be recognized, especially where indicated that the greatest benefit are expected from investment in the areas very urbanized. But we have to reconsider this position and to develop the high-speed train, the high-speed services also in less urbanized area. This in order to create and to, yes, to promote the rail services and to create an engine for the development of economical and financial development of that area. So my idea is that the European Commission guidelines on cost-benefit analysis for the valuation of investment should be reconsidered.
Thank you so much, Anna. And also, I really liked the fact that you underlined the importance to have like shared and common goals. I think if we really want to move together towards climate neutrality, we need to have like a North Star, common objectives that we are all working together towards too. So thank you very much for that. I'm moving on to René Bergven, who basically, I'm told, called himself the most boring shipbuilder on earth. But I don't believe that at all, René, because looking at your fascinating jobs, I found this hard to believe, because René is the Vice President of Damen Shipyards, which is an international group based on the Netherlands, but having activities in more than 120 countries. René has also been recently elected chairman of Sea Europe, which is a European association of shipbuilders and equipment manufacturers. And René is also playing a key role in the Horizon Europe partnership dealing with zero-emission waterborne transport. So warm welcome, René. And for you, the same question. So how will you with your company and also you with your activities in the zero-emission waterborne transport partnership be contributing to accelerating the sustainable mobility and contributing to the objectives that we commonly set in the smart and sustainable mobility strategy? So René, the floor is yours.
Well, Rosalinda, thank you very much. Wonderful introduction. Most appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Just to make sure everybody understands, the maritime industry, shipping in general, is a very large and efficient industry. And if you look at the per ton cost, it is low, and actually also the per ton emissions are low. However, we are still emitting, and I think that we all agreed within the EU on the EU level, but also on the country level and on the people level, that we are ready for the next step, which is going to zero emission, which is a formidable challenge. I'm sure it's a formidable challenge for everyone. I mean, no matter if you are in housing or trains or any form of transport, it is a formidable challenge. Whereby, in all honesty, I don't doubt that from a technical point of view, this can be done. I am sure that industry, backed up by research, will develop the technology to get to zero emissions from, let's say, from anywhere from 2030 to 2050. But it's not only the technology that we need. I think what plays a very important role here is also the entire infrastructure. And what I mean by infrastructure, I mean fuels, the different fuels for different applications, and in particular also their distribution. And last but not least, we need probably different rules and different regulations on an EU-wide scale to go hand in hand with that. And otherwise, it's not. If one of these things are missing, it's not going to work. And I believe it will not be a big bang. It will be a journey. It will be a journey that has started a few years ago, and that will take us the next years to come. But I'm absolutely convinced on the outcome of that. Yesterday was a very exciting day, and Rosalinda, I saw you on Twitter supported that, whereby the co-program partnership waterborne transport was signed yesterday, which is a big, huge step. There's going to be enormous amount of millions of euros available to back up the commitment of the EU in research and innovation to stimulate and focus and accelerate solutions for the maritime industry. Maritime industry, very diversified. We are looking at the small ferries crossing rivers all the way extending to the huge cruise ships that are hundreds of thousands of kilowatt energy that needs to be generated with a clean fuel. So the challenge is huge, but it can be done. Our role as a company, like any other company in the maritime industry, but certainly for a shipbuilder, we are a system integrator. And it happens to be that at Damen, a few years ago, we have decided that we want to become the most sustainable shipbuilder in Europe, or preferably in the world. And that will need that will certainly also mean that we are banking enormously on digitalization, which will be the key enabler to get there. And of course, we all have to do this secure and in a safe way. We have a lot of experience with EU-funded programs, Navais, Jules, Ramses. So we feel very confident to join the co-program partnership, waterborne transport. Actually, we look forward to it. And, I think it's going to be great. Why do we want to join? Well, basically two reasons, I guess. It's our license to operate towards the future. And secondly, it will be a future business model. So, we are excited and ready to roll.
Excellent. Thank you so much, René. I mean, I think you said many valuable things. I think one of the novelties of the partnership under Horizon Europe, all of them, is that they operate on the principle of openness. We really feel that we need to join up as many parties as possible in order to commonly work towards the common objective of the smart and sustainable mobility. And I was also very happy to hear, René, that you're ready for the next step, that you believe that it's technologically also possible, but that we also need to look at the surroundings, including the infrastructure. I also picked up that you said, it's not a big bang, it's a journey. I agree, and I also think, we should be really traveling together there. But there will be something what I do refer to as a big bang coming up mid-July, because that will be the moment when the European Commission will be presenting its Fit for 55 package. And this will be a package of legislative revisions, including looking at fuels and infrastructures. So really also to revise our regulatory framework and to make sure that also the regulatory framework that we are having will be enabling us on this journey to climate neutrality. So thank you very much. Let's move on to Juan D'Antonio, our third panelist. Juan, welcome very much. It's great to have you. You are the CEO and co-founder of unicorn Cabify, and I understand that this is a Spanish ride-sharing company which provides vehicles via the smartphone mobile app. It's operating, I understood, in Spain, Portugal, and Latin America. And I also understood, Juan, that your preferred way way of mobility is actually riding the surfboard, but that unfortunately in Madrid there are no waves to take you to the Cabify offices, so that in Madrid you move around on a bicycle or an electric moped. So welcome, and I see you didn't bring your surfboard to our panel discussion this afternoon, but for you the same question, Juan. So how will your company basically accelerate the smart and sustainable mobility, and how will the activities of your company contribute to achieving our objectives of the smart and sustainable mobility strategy? Juan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rosalind. Yeah, so there is a huge challenge ahead of us, especially in cities. Road transportation accounts for over 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and urban centers generate the vast majority of those, 70% of them. And that's today. By 2050, more people will live in cities. It is estimated that over 70% of the global population will be living in cities. So managing this migration to cities and making sure mobility is more sustainable and more efficient, it's critical to fight climate change, and also to protect the health of people living in cities. The World Health Organization estimates that every year over 7 million people die because of pollution. So there is a huge challenge, and looking at our streets, we can notice it. 70 to 80% of the street space is dedicated to private vehicles. And these vehicles are parked 95% of the time. This is really inefficient. Our current allocation of public space is far from optimal. It is also very expensive for those who do not own a vehicle, because tying up all that space increases the cost of land for other uses. So there is a huge inefficiency in our current model of mobility. And the good news is that we have a solution. Cities and sustainable mobility will become instrumental in our solution for climate change. There are technologies already available, but there isn't a single solution. We need to involve different modes of transportation, different industries to solve this issue. Public transportation or mass transit is definitely a solution. It's going to be a very relevant part of that solution because of its capacity, but it might not serve the needs of all the citizens because of time, location, availability, or inclusion. So we need to think of multi-mobility. We need to think of offering different modes of mobility within our cities. As I was saying, technology, it's a great ally to boost efficiency, because through technology we can provide transportation solutions with less empty kilometers, but it also provides us with more efficient alternatives, such as electrification of vehicles or hydrogen cells. Zero emissions are achievable. The technology is already here. As an example, in our network, vehicles collaborating with us emit on average 30% less CO2 per kilometer than the average fleet on cities. So we expect to see less and less cars, and these cars should be greener, should be even zero emission. We have the goal to fully decarbonize our fleet by 2025 in Europe and by 2030 in Latin America. And in the interim, we need to act, and we need to compensate what we cannot reduce. Since January 2018, we are compensating all of our emissions. We are the first and unfortunately the only fully carbon neutral ride-hailing app at scale in the world. So we've reinforced also our commitment recently with the introduction of additional technologies. We are pioneering blockchain technology to boost transparency and efficiency of all of this offsetting in our network.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Juan. First of all, for really emphasizing also the important role that cities have to play in our transition to climate neutrality, and also for then underlying the clear ambitions that you've set within your company, which I think is very important, and also raising issues such as affordability, efficiency, and of course also the importance of multi-mobility. So thank you so much. This is really very inspirational. I would like to move on to a second set of questions, because you have been all very convincing in what you're doing and your contribution to more sustainable mobility. But I would also be very interested in what you expect from the European Union. So what could we be doing for you in terms of research and innovation activities at the European Union? As you know, we have Horizon Europe, which is the biggest publicly funded framework program for investing in research and innovation actually in the whole world. We have 95.5 billion euros for the next 7 years. But in order to meet our ambitions, of course, we need to make sure that we make the investments wisely. So I would like to maybe start with you, Juan, to go back to you. On your expectations, what do you think we should prioritize in the European Union in order to make our investments of Horizon Europe in research and innovation as efficient and impactful as possible?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer. I would say we definitely need to encourage innovation, and we need to encourage new technologies and also the adoption and diffusion of those technological breakthroughs. It's not only about having the technology for electric vehicles, but it's also to make sure that those vehicles are on the street. And I would want to highlight the relevance of startups or scale-ups like our company and many others in Europe, since we typically want to break through and throw down barriers. We are typically disruptive companies. So many of these necessary innovations are expected to come from new disruptive companies. If I were to ask for a key item to be solved, I would believe that maybe simplifying or harmonizing regulation across the different states within the European Union, it's key to the success, because it will simplify and align the incentives that companies across the region have. I would also think that making sure that we have recognition of and visibility of the role that companies play towards improving our society, it is also very relevant. So on top of having those funds available to introduce the technology and scale those technologies, I would say it's very important to make sure that we harmonize the regulation and we provide visibility to companies that are driving this change, which is needed for our society.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Juan. So stay tuned for the Big Bang Fit for 55 legal proposals that will come out mid-July. I'm also very happy that you underline the importance of supporting the smaller companies that are really focusing on breakthrough innovations. With Horizon Europe, we have a new instrument called the European Innovation Council that is specifically targeting these smaller companies and helping them to scale up for breakthrough innovations in the European Union. And lastly, I'm also happy that you mentioned that, of course, we need to develop the new technologies through research and innovation, but eventually we need to make sure that these new technologies are deployed on the market. And that's why in the Horizon Europe program, we are looking specifically how we can basically implement this program in better synergy with other deployment programs that we have in the European Union, such as the Innovation Fund or InvestEU. So thank you for mentioning all this. I would like to go to René for the same question, actually. So René, the floor is yours for your wish list. What can the European Union do to accelerate a more sustainable mobility future?
Okay, thank you, Rosalinda, for allowing me to say a few words on that. Well, first of all, EU already made a huge step yesterday that what I already underlined in my first contribution, signing the co-program partnership waterborne transport. And yes, it is about money, but I think what is perhaps even more important that, with a program like that, on a European scale, we are getting focus and we are getting cooperation between the different maritime industries in the different countries. And that, I think, will work as a fantastic accelerator, because through this EU level support and research and innovation effort, I am sure, and at least let me speak then for the Netherlands, which I know a little bit better, I am sure that the national programs will also align them in that same direction. So that's actually very positive news. What can the EU do in addition to what it already has done? I believe that one of the big challenges, certainly in the maritime industry, will be the rules and regulations overseeing all these new technological solutions, zero-emission solutions that need to be made fit for the market and that need to be approved in order to bring them safely and securely into the market. And I think it will be extremely helpful if any rules and regulations pertaining to that end of the industry are going to be taken on a European level and are going to be pushed by the EU, because as sooner as that set of rules and regulations is there, the market starts pushing in the same direction. So it's a push and pull, if you will, that will be extremely helpful. And last but not least, I link it to your last remark, where you also mentioned the different investment funds and opportunities also in the EU. I think it will be helpful to to make sure that we have finance for these breakthrough solutions, because the traditional financiers are somewhat conservative, and it will be helpful if on EU investment level there is going to be some let's say push or acceleration in that sense. And then last but not least, also if the EU can stimulate national on a country level that authorities are going to push for clean modes of transport. I give you the ferry example. The government, the local government in Copenhagen decided zero emission waterborne transport now, and the first ships have been delivered. So in that sense, national authorities can also play an important role to support the EU goals that you are pushing.
René, thank you so much for this. I also feel that you're very aligned with what Juan said. And I think, for me, what has really helped us is this European Green Deal with very clear targets and interim milestones that has also helped to align within the European Commission, the vision of the different Commission services. And also, we are working now much more closely together. And I think the same can happen between the cooperation at EU and national level. And also, for instance, in the context of the partnerships that you mentioned, it is really a great opportunity to make sure that we have aligned visions of where we want to go together with the member states, so that we are all pushing in the same direction. And thank you also for underlining the importance of having the right regulatory framework in the entire European Union to really push for these technological solutions to be taken up by the market. So really great. I also would like to go to Anna with the same question for you. So Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rosalind. And I would like to stress the fact that although we experience smart working, distance learning, and also, for example, telemedicine, etc., I think, and analysis also show that in the future decades, we will face the phenomenon of migration of population towards very urbanized areas. And for example, in Italy, we have very efficient high-speed services, a blackboard of more than 1,000 kilometers from the north of Italy, from Turin to Naples, in order to serve the main Italian cities, most populated Italian cities like Milan, Bologna, Florence, etc., etc. But in the near future, and also when we will face this migration, I would like to say that it will be not so easy to provide the entire territory, and this can be said also for the other member states. We cannot provide the entire territories with the rail infrastructure, also because of the characteristics of the territories. For example, in Italy, we have a lot of mountains, Alps, Apennines, and etc. So technologies can help in order to improve, in order to upgrade the existing rail infrastructure, for example. And the company which I'm representing now, Rete Ferroviaria Italiana, a few days ago signed a memorandum of understanding with a consultant in order for a feasibility study, in order to see if it would be possible to develop and to use the magnetic levitation for the current framework, for the current infrastructure, for the current lines. And I think that would be extremely interesting to see if it would be possible to upgrade the current infrastructure thanks to technologies. And another important technology that we can recall here is the satellites. The European Union quite recently set up a new agency for satellites programs for Galileo, EGNOS, and the application of this, also for Copernicus, etc., etc. In Italy, we are already using the satellites programs, for example, in order to check, to control the lines for maintenance, safety, security of trains, and so on. But this technology can be made more fruitful with the help of the European Commission, the FIS, and with the new agency. For sure. So I would like to emphasize this fact and also to make some remarks in conclusion that, as René said, the development of new technologies must be necessarily accompanied with evolution of regulatory framework, so a uniform, harmonized regulation in the entire member states, in the entire European Union, and the technological administrative barriers that delay the standardization, harmonization of process in the EU has to be removed. And it is necessary, I think, to harmonize operating regulations at European level in order to achieve full interoperability of the networks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anna, thank you. Thank you for raising this. And indeed, the interoperability, you also mentioned the importance of the infrastructure to be right. So thank you very much. I would like to go and see if there are some questions from the audience in the Slido. And I see indeed that some questions have been posed. I will start with a question for Juan. I see there a question asking whether Cabify is thinking about using electric and autonomous vehicles in the near future. Juan, would you like to answer that one?
We are definitely using already electric vehicles. Autonomous vehicles, we are cooperating in some tests, but we don't have a specific date on when to deploy those. We are also looking at alternatives, because maybe it's not about the vehicles being driven by themselves, but having someone remotely driving them when there is an event that needs human support. So we are looking at different alternatives, but we don't have a date to have self-driven vehicles on the street.
Excellent, thank you, Juan. Then a related question for both René and Anna, and that is, are autonomous ships and trains a viable solution for the future? René?
Well, interesting question. And in fact, there is a EU-funded program ongoing where they are now experimenting with a seaborne ship going on a longer distance remotely. It's not yet been done, but it's in the process of being executed. And so I guess in a year or two we will know. Not know. I mean, it can be done. The technology is basically there, but the experiment needs to show what needs to be done in terms of regulatory framework, safety, etc., etc. The big question is, is that our highest priority, to have remote or autonomous sailing ships? I think my feeling is that, and certainly in the context of today's seminar, this is all about zero emission, I guess, being perhaps a little bit more important today than the autonomous, which will, I'm sure, follow suit after we have accomplished our zero emission goals.
Thank you very much, René, for that. I would like to go back to the audience to see if this very stimulating and inspiring discussion with our three panelists have actually changed your mind on what is the biggest challenge. So if we can show the poll again, and if you could again vote on what you think is the biggest challenges that we are facing today for our sustainable mobility. And while you're doing that, I would like to go back to the three panelists for a last question to you. And I would like to ask you if you could summarize in 3 keywords what you think are the most important priorities that we need to address, or the most important opportunities that we have in order to be fully on track with our European transport mode in order to achieve our climate neutrality. And maybe, Anna, I can start with you. So the 3 key issues that you would like to underline in order to put us on the right track for sustainable transport.
Technology, for sure. So to develop, to apply new technologies to our sector, to the train sector, for sure, in order to develop it and in order to make it more fruitful, the existing line. And as I told you, rail transport is ecological by definition, so in its essence. So train is another important point that we can say, and also I think the development of this service in remote areas as an engine for developing the economic and financial activities in the area. We don't want to see in the future people moving from the southern countries in Europe and to move to the north, for example, like it's happening in Italy, in search of more opportunities. They deserve to remain in their beautiful beaches and places with the same facilities and services.
Thank you, Anna. Juan, your 3 keywords.
So mine would be first, investigate new technologies. We will need new technologies. The second one will be incentivize adoption of existing or new technologies, so scaling. And the third one would be ensuring a harmonized regulatory framework. So technologies, adoption, and regulation.
Thank you, Juan. And René, over to you.
Well, there's not much to add to the 2 previous speakers, but I would like to say it in the following way. We should take a balanced and holistic view if we speak about the maritime industry and the zero emission goals. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's not only about technology; it's also very much about the associated distribution and availability of energy, fuel, electrons, whatever it may be. So that, I think, is a very important, and that requires a balanced, holistic view. The regulatory framework, I think we all agree that is extremely important, and not only important, but it will be an accelerator also of the program. And last, I guess, but not least, is technology. technology for new ships, but I would also very much like to stress that retrofitting new technology in existing ships will also very much facilitate and accelerate the goals of the zero emission goals that we have in the European Union.
Thank you, René, and thank you to all three of you. You've made my job very easy. And we have 30 seconds left, so I will just wrap up and close. So I think we are all in agreement that we need to have a common vision, that we need to have a more holistic view, to have the right regulatory framework as well, and of course cooperation together in order to achieve our climate neutral ambitions. Let me make a bit of publicity. So coming up now is a short video made by Viteris. This is the Brussels Research and Innovation Agency, and they've been interviewing citizens in Brussels and asking their views about the smart and sustainable mobility. So stay tuned, and in 15 minutes we will have a very interesting session with the Shift to Rail partnership, where we can learn all about the results from the European Year of Rail that Commissioner Vălean also referred to. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I did, and stay tuned.
Réduire l'utilisation des voitures, mettre plus de transports en commun en place, mais il y a plus de lignes.
En Belgique, il y a quand même un problème au niveau des trains qui durent 2 fois plus de temps par rapport à la voiture pour aller d'un point A à un point B.
La première chose que je ferais, je crois, c'est les transports publics et en commun gratuits pour tous.
J'aimerais voir plus d'accès au vélo et aux trottinettes. J'aimerais voir la gratuité pour les jeunes pour prendre le bus et des horaires plus avantageuses.
Alors pour moi, une Europe verte favorise les déplacements au sein des capitales et dans Bruxelles. Développer le TGV, le train à grande vitesse, à train européen afin que celui-ci concurrence l'avion.
Ça serait bien de développer encore plus le nombre de trains, le nombre de trajets possibles, un retour au train couchette.